this video, we're talking about the quality of wool. We listen to an interview I do with Richard and his daily activities to grow quality wool, and then how you too can have quality woolen clothing. Achieving better quality allows us all a little frivolity. G'day, this is your country uncle, Uncle John, telling you stories about family farmers and the wisdom of wool. I've had 40 years in the wool industry, 20 years on farm and 20 years as an accountant, advising many wool producers. But the best year of my life was when I was jackarooing in Queensland. Oh, we had so much fun. So sit back, relax, watch this video, and I hope you get a little bit of fun. Back to the farming industry. So during the seasons, Richard, there are good seasons and bad seasons, and there are droughts, low commodity prices, there are tough times. Could you just tell the listeners how you get through those tough times when it doesn't rain for weeks, months, years on end, low commodities? What keeps you going in the farming industry?
I think probably you've got to be a gambler. You could go to the casino, but the odds are bad there. I like farming because when it goes well, everything goes well. The bad times, yes, but it's like you're sort of pulling together. We had a year where we fed the whole year, and you see the bank balance going down.
When you say fed, you fed the animals.
Yeah, fed them nuts.
Grain and nuts.
Yeah,
right.
For a full year, we'd had a year before we had grain stored and fed them. It'd been 2-year drought. The second year, there was nothing whatsoever on the farm, no feed, and we bought it in. These nuts are made by an Australian company and a byproduct with ethanol coming out the other side, which is what it's all about. And these sheep lived with these fellas, and you're a bit like a pop star. You drive out and you get mobbed by 400 here and 300 here, and you feel good, and they feel good because they're having their nuts. There's two winners. Even the bank manager's the only one that's got to worry. It's good.
So during the tough times, you get enjoy, or I don't know if enjoyment's the right word, but you don't see it as tough, I presume. So what I'm trying to ask, Richard, is you don't see them as tough times. They're just part of your industry or your business that you have to go through.
I think so. What I do find hard, and I think a lot of Australian farmers is floods. Where it's sort of created by the situation, not by nature, but by what we're doing. I think that's frustrating, and everybody has a different point of view about what the stress factor is. But again, I get back to a farmer understands, if he's a good one, about nature, and we're only here as guiding the ship just a bit this way about it. It's a long journey for nature, and we're just like the sheep and all the wild animals. We're just part of the system. I don't believe that we're on top of it. We're just part of it. There are a lot of people who believe that we're totally in control, and I think that's what frustrates a lot of farmers, that some of what is decided is against what the general nature is, and that's what is depressing for a farmer.
Okay, so you mentioned nature. So you're out here in the countryside. So do you have a favourite native plant?
Well,
yeah.
I've travelled all over Australia in my trucks, and I love a lot of things about Australia, but you love the sea and all of that sort of thing. But then when you come out where we're finally living now, and you're living on a creek or a river, and in the riverina we are now, and you get the stillness that you get in the evenings, and you look at the red gums and the big box trees, and boy, they're old and they're huge, and the water, and it's about as good as it can get anywhere on earth. And in the evenings, you get this stillness and the water's calm and honestly, you see red gums, but these big old box trees, they're like big giant trees, and they're fabulous because probably a lot of people don't understand, but in a really hot, might be 40 degrees, and you're sweating, and you're watching the sheep, and if you're silly enough to try and move them at the middle of the day, they'll move from one big box tree to the next one, and they sit as close as they can under the tree, and if you go in there, there's a little current right in the middle, and the most senior sheep get the best, and further out the weaker ones, and usually it's a silly old human that's sitting a bit further out with his air-conditioned Land Cruiser, which cost him a lot of money, and he's losing money burning fuel with the air conditioner. And
so the river red gum.
yeah, I love the red gums, yes.
Funny enough, Richard, the ABC had a competition about the favourite tree, an Australian tree, and it was the river red gum, came out number one.
Well, there you go. And you fall in love with them. They're
great
lovely trees. They really are.
And what about a native animal? Do you have a favourite native animal and why?
Well, where we live, it's an interesting thing where we all keep watching. If in the creek you've got a platypus, and well, I shouldn't say it, but a year ago,
maybe don't say it then.
well, I'm a bit anti sort of government control, but they were paying $15,000 to see if there was any platypus in the creek. You could get a grant, and the joke was that we'd seen the platypus in the creek, and we lived in a former farm for 25 years with the platypus at the bottom of our garden, and we love platypus. But down here we have probably the animal I respect enormously is the koala, because he's up in the tree where we live, and we haven't seen one just on our paddock, but we have just across the road, and he's a guy who's really smart. He doesn't do any harm to the other guys, the sheep and the cattle. He sits in the tree. He doesn't need much water because he gets it out of the leaves. And I don't know whether you saw when the bushfires and they got burnt,
yes.
People were trying to feed them with bottles.
Yes.
But they get just about all the moisture out of the leaf.
Right.
They don't get down and go for a swim normally. So they're wonderful animals for this country, and they cohabit with all the other guys without causing any trouble.
So there's koalas around here?
Yeah, there's a lot of koalas where we live, and well, it's a pretty good part of the world down here. I'm trying to sell it to you. We've got these beautiful, superb green parrots flying in the trees, and we've got koalas and platypus. You can't ask for much more than that with a few red gum.
Yeah, that's right. Now, so on the farm, can you tell me about your neighbours? So the listeners in the city, they live of course, physically very close to their neighbours, but they probably don't have much to do with them. Though, can you tell me about your neighbours, how many neighbours you have, how often you see them, and your relationship with your neighbours?
Well, we've got 4, I suppose, direct neighbours, and they're all very good neighbours because it's different to the city. You're talking about bushfires and controlling how you manage that on each farm so that you're protecting your neighbour, and you're doing it yourself. How the water and food is affected. If you damage the water, then your neighbour's going to be damaged. And if you've got to be aware of them as neighbours, but as far as business as well, we've been very, very lucky where we are. We've got terrific neighbours. And there's a sort of camaraderie that the bushfire brigade, all looking out for the other fella. And it's just a bit different probably to the city because it's a team effort because of nature again. It's a natural thing. Bushfire, a flood.
Yeah, no, it's very different. First of all, you don't see them very often. Like it's not as, people in the city, when they walk at the front door, there's a good chance they're going to physically see their neighbour because they're only 30 or 40 feet away. Whereas in your case, you don't, you're probably 2 or 3 miles, if not further, from your neighbour. But yet at the same time, they are next to your business, and how they behave or what they do, and they're spraying chemicals or different industries. It can affect you and your business. So that's the difference. I presume, as far as I can see it, that the neighbours to farms is a lot different to neighbours in the city.
Big time, because you're dealing. That's one thing I think probably don't understand. As you said, chemicals, bushfires, the management of water,
yes,
has a huge effect on your neighbours, yes, and the whole area. Whereas, a house, well, you've got to protect it, but you're not anywhere near as well. You just don't have chemicals in the city at this stage, which we do in the country. Very important part.
I suppose one good thing about farming is you can have noisy parties. That doesn't affect your neighbours too much.
That's one of the very best parts about it. It's your own domain, along with the sheepdogs and everybody else and your neighbours.
Okay, we're getting close to finishing up now. So do you think you've made the right decision, the right vacation, the right job?
Yeah, I think I'm absolutely blessed. You might sound very negative. A lot of people hear negative, we'll all be ruined about farming. And a hell of a lot of us have been ruined at different times, but you sort of bounce back, and sometimes you don't. But I couldn't think of anything. I wanted to do it when I started, as I said, with the lamb at 4, a truck at 7. My father took me in just to keep me quiet, and the local dealer wrote me a thing, a form, an order form for when I was 19 to entertain me. And I bought my first truck when I was 15, and it didn't cost much. It was £30 or $60, and it was a tip truck, and it did work. And so I'm now 78. I'm on the farm I love we've got to cut down pretty soon, but my wife and I have had absolute ball farming. Plenty of tough times. We've nearly gone under a few times, and we've done well sometimes. Yep. And what an adventure! I love what I've done.
Yeah. Well, Richard, thank you very much for your time. It's been greatly appreciated. I hope the listeners have learned something, and thank you very much.
Okay, that's the final of the interviews with Richard. And we thank you very much, and he seems like koalas. Good on you, Richard. Now we're going to listen to Darian, the second part of Wonder Wardrobe.
Hi everyone, so nice to see you here again on my channel. Wool is a beautiful fabric and has many great properties. Wool is tough, durable, dirt resistant and breathable. It's comfortable to wear in both warm and cool climates. Sheep's wool is a traditional wool that can be made from any sheep fleece. Merino wool is taken from a merino sheep, and it gives the fabric a soft and fine feel. It's the only kind of wool that is resilient to heating, which makes it a great investment. You can see different prices for merino wool in the stores. That's because not all merino wool is equal. The smaller the number of microns, the softer and more expensive the wool. Mohair wool is taken from the Angora goat. It might be soft and really itchy, depending on the type of fibers. Usually, mohair is blended with wool to make the fabric even warmer. Angora wool is made out of Angora rabbit hair. Its main quality is the fluffy texture and its soft touch. Angora wool is fine and more fragile than merino wool or cashmere. Cashmere wool is a soft and luxurious fabric. We can see cashmere everywhere now in both mass market and luxury stores. The price difference depends on the quality of the goat's hair. Premium cashmere is made from the long hairs. It's combed, never sheared. Cheaper cashmere is sheared. This process shortens the fibers and leads to peeling. Also, look at the tight knit. It's more durable. If the construction feels loose, the garment will most probably lose shape quickly. Alpaca fleece is a silky, soft, super warm and therefore luxurious natural fiber. Alpaca wool has a really light environmental footprint. This funny-looking animal eats and drinks very little and treads softly on the ground. Although wool in general is a very nice fabric, the production process doesn't look that good at all. Firstly, sheep produce methane, and 50% of the greenhouse gas emissions from the wool industry come from the sheep themselves. Secondly, sheep farming often uses pesticides and insecticides that are toxic for the sheep and ecosystem. And the third issue is that it's still pretty common that animals are being horribly abused daily and being held in poor conditions. To avoid buying wool from this kind of producers, look for cruelty-free and organic labels. What might be a sustainable alternative is to choose recycled wool. The wool goes through sorting into different color categories before shredding. This completely eliminates the dyeing process, saving water and chemicals. In general, recycled wool contributes to less air, water, and soil pollution. Cashmere has roughly 100 times more the environmental impact of wool. The more sustainable options are regenerated or recycled cashmere. Regenerated cashmere is made from post-factory waste, and recycled cashmere comes from worn sweaters and usually mixed in with new wool fibers for better durability. As you can see, the production of fabrics might be really tough on nature. Even natural fabrics often require tremendous amount of chemicals that pollutes the air, water and soil. But it still can be even compared with the production of synthetics that we will talk about in the next episode. Here at least we have some organic options with less impact, like linen, hemp, alpaca wool, silk, or we can go with recycled cotton, wool and cashmere, which are definitely more sustainable. Still, natural fabrics have one huge advantage, and that is that all of them can be reused, recycled, or simply biodegraded. That's why we all have to be careful when choosing our fabrics and skip the blended ones. Blended fabrics are those that are made by mixing several materials together. They can't be recycled, and they will not biodegrade for up to 200 years. And recycling is really important. It's the only way for us to reduce our use of raw materials and have less waste.
Thank you, Daria, for the explanation of wool. Greatly appreciated. And remember, life's short. Find your joy. And always remember it, so you always enjoy.